Kaiser Wilhelm II.
A lot of commentators claim to oppose the system, when in reality, they're pledging their fealty to the system daily. Every day, commentators like Tim Pool are ranting about how much they hate the current system, while they are still on all the system's platforms like YouTube, Twitter, and every other social media. Meanwhile, people like Nick Fuentes have been banned from all these platforms. It doesn't take a genius to recognize that Tim Pool gives Susan Wojcicki head. Meanwhile, Fuentes gives a 5-megaton nuclear bomb over YouTube's headquarters. People like Pool, Kirk, and Koczynski are not only not opposing the system, but furthering the system's goals by committing metaphorical vehicular manslaughter. Libertarians and libertarian socialists, and Charlie Kirk, who is also a libertarian, are useful idiots for the system. Conservative organizations like Toilet Paper USA only serve as a false opposition to the corporate elite that wishes to turn America, Burger Deshalb, into next-gen China. They are useful idiots for the corporations to push whatever they want. Their response to woke advertising is, sweaty. Companies are allowed to have woke ads because we live in a capitalist country. The only way you can stop this corporate tyranny is by embracing Fumo monarchism, or just plain monarchism if you're not a weeaboo, which I am not. And after this brilliant intro, you're basically obliged to watch the rest of this video because I am a creative and funny person. If you don't watch the rest of this video, I'm gonna Everyone thinks they oppose the system, from the most hardcore Pinko to Joe Rogan. But the thing all these people have in common is that they have not been persecuted by the system. How can you be against the establishment when you have not been persecuted by it? It's simply not possible. Tim Pool and all the others have not been banned from YouTube, Twitch, or PayPal, while the real right wing is banned on all these platforms daily. These people do not oppose the system in any meaningful way, or, as we will find out later, might even give people leukemia through their active support of it. All these dimwit Tim Pool junkies are like, wow, Tim Pool is saying some real shit. The system finna shaking their boots. Meanwhile, Jeff Bezos has just looted $15 million worth of Fumos from 5.5 Tohos. That is to say that Tim Pool has never said anything that has threatened the integrity of the system. If Tim Pool is a sort of false opposition psyop propped up by the system, leftists actively support the system. Tim Pool might not say the lives of reactionary monarchists are forfeit because they oppose our sacred democracy, but BreadTube will go out of their way to say exactly that. First they say, yeah, I got you banned off of YouTube, and you deserved it, because you were supporting ideas contradicting cheese pizza democracy. And then they will turn around and say, YouTube isn't doing enough to stop the dissemination of misinformation on their platforms. Because when they banned Stefan Molyneux, Computing Forever, Ethan Ralph, Way of the Road, Nick Fuentes, Infowar, American Renaissance, The Volksliga, The Iconoclast, E. Michael Jones, Frank Hassel, Sam Hyde, Andy Worski, Tommy Robinson, and many, many more. That actually wasn't fighting us. That was YouTube fighting the spread of leukemia in young children. And of those channels that still remain on YouTube, they get sent to the shadow band. They say the right gets banned because we promote the sad and the pain, etc. But that is just willful ignorance on their part. The Holodomor, Khmer Rouge, and the gulags were committed by the left and passed away many more people than right-leaning regimes in the 20th century. The Holodomor, which passed away 5 million people. Ukrainians had all their possessions taken away from them, sent on trains to Siberia, and told to create new villages with absolutely nothing. Needless to say, the majority of them died. And how can they say that their ideology is less violent? They engage in extensive historical revisionism that whitewashes these libertarian socialist regimes. The establishment is obviously ignoring these atrocities and is instead focusing on atrocities committed by governments which were nominally right-leaning. That is why the pro-movement of 1941 to 45 is taught in schools, but the Holodomor isn't. Tim Pool will have Vaush on his show for a free and open conversation in the marketplace of ideas, but not even acknowledge the existence of Nick Fuentes, because totally ignoring Nick Fuentes helps achieve the goal of the marketplace of ideas, I swear. But Fuentes was banned off of Twitter, so that invalidates him as a person, meaning Pool doesn't have to acknowledge his existence. Think about this. Twitter withdrawal is an issue only faced by the right wing, because leftoids never get banned, yet the left claims to be against discriminatory. Curious. Some people may say, oh, you're banned from a social media site? Big deal. Next you're gonna say you're banned from the hospital after you stole someone's liver. Yeah, and what if I did steal someone's liver? But we've been banned from banks, from cryptocurrency exchanges, from Spotify, Airbnb, Apple Podcasts, airlines, Patreon, Discord, and Shopify. Yes, you heard that right. In the most violent cases, the regime bans people from flying. But these people actually want you to believe that Canada First upholds the system while they want to commit an overthrow. And when you confront them about how much the system supports them, they get all butthurt and will spurg out for 5 years. A lot like how Germany spurged out, destroying the road twice. Curious. And what are we even saying that is so bad? We promote ideas that were commonplace not even 50 years ago. But because we hold these universal ideas, our ability to use any of these platforms is forfeit. They refuse to acknowledge these facts because it's inconvenient. If they actually showed reactionaries in any way that was close to the truth, it would immediately discredit them as opponents of the regime because they would have shown what an actual opponent of the regime looks like. This is my personal address as a Kaiser Wilhelm imposter to every leftoid who is still using Twitch, YouTube, and banks. This is like Wilhelm II's speech at the start of the Great War. This is some real shit. If you actually oppose the system, you certainly would not be using any platforms that the system controls, and, moreover, have your ideology endorsed by that system, the government and the corporations. You have a total lack of self-awareness. People like Nick Fuentes have been banned from every platform under the sun. That is what someone who really challenges the system looks like. You will never pose a threat to the current regime's power structure. You push the regime's ideology. And you are helping the regime to solidify their total control over Canada. Libertarians and leftists are useful idiots for big business. Charlie Kirk and Ian Koczynski both represent the power structure, and neither of them is stopping the incoming corporatist tyranny, because in the end, they both enable it. Socialite Koczynski enables the system by promoting the integration of corporations into the state, and capitalist Kirk enables it by demanding no regulations be put on these monopolies. They both serve their roles well as slaves in Mark Zuckerberg's harem. The establishment props up these people as a false opposition. It's a very clever tactic on their part because it gives people frustrated with society the opportunity to dissent without challenging the system. This has happened before. In the popular imagination, we like to think that hippies were a natural, organic movement that made change through their dissent against the establishment. When you examine the hippie movement a little more critically, you find that many of their leaders had connections to the CIA. In other words, the movements of the 60s and 70s were entirely created by the state. It gave the establishment a false people's mandate to change the laws of the country, to make it appear as if the majority of people supported their planned liberal reforms. It was manufactured consent, a term you should familiarize yourself with, because people like Hassan Abi, Vaush, Charlie Kirk, and Tim Pool are at the vanguard of a new wave of manufactured consent to make it appear as if the only voices of the youth are progressive or libertarian, while suppressing any truly reactionary movement. The conclusion of this video is that there is no conclusion.